Alright, we're going to go to our next section of our workbook, but before I get to it, I want to notice that the next section of our workbook is actually on page 92, section 4.4, but we're going to skip this section. If you wanted to look at section 4.4, you could, but you'll notice that it involves a lot of measuring and walking around the classroom and things like that that just aren't possible in the environment we are in right now. So we're actually going to skip section 4.4, and that's why today's lesson is called 4.5. So 4.5 is going to be our last section of the workbook that we're going to get to this year. It's on page 96, and the warm-up involves a lot of excellent math that is going to be helpful, not just for what we're doing now, next, but also for what you'll need in the future. So let's do our warm-up here on page 96. So the first question says we're going to convert each measurement. So you see it's given to us in 21 inches, and we want to figure out how many feet and inches that is. So one thing to remember from our learning about imperial measurements is that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. So if we have 21 inches, that's obviously more than 12, and so we have more than 1 feet. So let's figure out how many feet we have. So what we'll start off with is taking the 24 and we're going to divide it by 12 because we want to see how many feet are in that. So we can do that by going over to our calculator and of course let's push clear, 21 divided by 12, and we will see that it is 1.75. So the key is it tells me that it only goes in once. Okay, in fact, when I stop and think about it, 2 times 12 is 24, so that would be 2 feet. So this is less than that, so it's 1 foot. So at the very least, I know there's 1 foot in the 21 inches. Okay, now I got to figure out what's left over. So 1 times 12, of course, is the 12. So 12 of these inches goes towards that foot. But I got to figure out what's left over. So I'm going to take the 21 and subtract the 12 inches that's in the foot. And when you do 21 minus 12 is 9. Let's just confirm that. 21 minus the 1 foot, which is 12, is 9. That means you have 9 inches left over. Okay, and that is 1 feet 9 inches. Now we can check this by going backwards. So we can go off and say this: if you have 1 foot, multiply that by 12 to get the number of inches, plus the 9 inches that is left over, so plus 9, and we do get 21 inches in total. So that's good that that works. All right, let's try 40 inches now. So 40 inches is, again, bigger than 12. In fact, I think it's bigger than 2 feet because 2 times 12 is 24. And I almost think it's more than that. It might even be more than 3 or maybe even 4 feet. So let's go off and check. So we're going to go 40 divided by 12 because we're figuring out how many feet is in 40 inches. And you see it's 3 point something. And really all I care about is the 3. So I know that there's at least 3 feet in there. 3 feet, it fits in 40 inches. Now the question is, how many inches is 3 feet? Well, we can do that by going 3 times 12 and getting that there's 36 inches. So of these 40 inches, 36 of them makes up the 3 feet. So if you take 36 of the 40 inches, you'll get 3 feet. And now, of course, we're going to have to figure out what's left over. 40 minus the 36. So 40 minus 36, and I believe that's 4. And so 40 minus the 36 means that there's 4 inches left over. So 40 inches is actually the same as 3 feet, 4 inches. So again, we can check that out by going 3 times 12. So 3 times 12, getting it into inches, plus the 4 left over, and we get 40 inches. So that's correct. Next, you'll see we're going the other way. We know what we have here. So the 6 and 1 dash means feet and 2 dashes mean inches. So this is 6 foot 1 inches. So that's about how tall I am. I'm 6'2". So we wonder how many inches that is in total. Well, again, we can use what this strategy we've been doing here. If we go 6 times 12, will tell us how many inches the 6 feet is. So let's just check that part of it. So 6 times 12 the 6 times 12 is 72 plus the one more. Okay, so let me just get back here. That's 6 times 12 is 24. And then I have one extra inch, or 72, excuse me, 6 times 12 is 72. And I have one extra inch, so I'm just going to add one, and I'll get my 73. So 6 times 12 plus 1 is 73. I could do that all in one step. 6 times 12 plus the extra 1 inch is indeed 73 inches. So let's try it again in the second one. 4 foot 9. So 4 times 12 plus the extra 9 inches, and that ends up being 57. So 4 times 12 is, that's 48, plus 9 more is 57. Okay, so that warm up there is going to be a big chunk of your quiz, because I think it's a very important skill, being able to go back between inches and feet. And so you might want to make sure you pay close attention to that. And I'll actually show you the quiz towards the end so you can remember this part. The last question on the quiz is going to be similar to this one. The scale in this diagram is 1 square equals 1 foot. So this line represents, well, how many? Well, let's actually count how many squares we go. So we start at 0, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see that's 5 squares. And so if 1 square represents 1 foot, then 5 squares must be 5 feet. Okay? So that's going to be a very valuable thing when we're drawing pictures later on, 1 square being 1 foot. It says on a U.S. road map, 1 inch represents 300 miles. So the reason we're talking about U.S. road maps is because U.S. still uses imperial measurement most often. So they would be using miles and inches. And so if we have 1 inch represents 300 miles, what would 2 inches be? Well, if I'm going from 1 inch to 2 inch, I'm timesing it by 2. So the miles must also get times by 2. And so that would be 300 times 2. And 300 times 2 is 600. Double that is 600. 3 inches, well, then that would be times 3. And 3 times 300 is 900. 3 times 3 is 9, so 3 times 300 is 9. And then here's a half inch. So if a full inch is 300, a half inch must be half of that. So I might need my calculator for that. 300 divided by 2 would be a half. Or I could think of this, 0.5 times 300. And it would also get me 150. So half an inch would be 150 miles on this map. And finally, what is the perimeter of this rectangle? So again, we're looking at a scale diagram, which is going to be helpful for what we're doing here. And if you look at it, we almost actually, well, let's just see what the actual math says. This is 10 feet there. So along this side must also be 10 feet. And if this is 8 feet, then that's 8 feet. And if I'm doing perimeter, I'm going to add that up. 10 plus 8 plus 10 plus 8. So add all that up. Let's do that. 10 plus 8 plus 10 plus 8 is 36. So it's 36 feet. And the scale supports that. In this case, if you notice here, this is 10 feet and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. So in this particular diagram, 5 squares is 10 feet. That would mean that 1 square would be 2 feet, right? It's doubled. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 squares times 2 is 8. So in this particular case, 1 square equals 2 feet. Now, in the scale diagrams we're going to be drawing, we're going to be using the 1 square equals 1 foot scale because it's much easier to work with. Okay, so there's our warm-up on page 96. And we'll scooch down to the bottom of page 96. And we're actually going to be working this with this scale drawing of Kayla's room here quite a bit. So we'll be coming back to this. But right now, it just says look at the picture. So let's make sure we understand what's going on. You see it's in squares. And it's got 14 feet all the way along here and 11 feet here. Now let's count the squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Well, that's very convenient. So 14 squares is 14 feet, and I suppose this is 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, 11 feet. So the scale here, the scale is 1 square equals 1 foot. Now, if you pay close attention, the graphic in your workbook is actually perfectly drawn as most uh, graph paper is. So if you have graph paper at home, chances are it maps on exactly the same as that diagram on the page of 96. And most graph paper, then, each square is actually a quarter of an inch. And you could take your ruler right now and place it along 4 squares, and you would see that it would equal 1 inch. 4 squares is 1 inch, so each 1 square is 1 quarter. Okay, so it's actually 1/4 inch is equal to 1 foot. But we can just count squares in our graph paper, and 1 square would equal 1 foot as well. Okay, so this is the dimensions of Kayla's room. We're going to actually be filling it up with furniture, and you're going to be doing, after this video, your culminating activity is to draw a similar scale drawing of your room, so, or a room in your house. So we're going to get very comfortable with this, and I would strongly suggest you use the same scale of 1 square equal 1 foot. Okay, but it looks like she's got a door here, I got a closet there, windows in these spots, and then we're going to fill stuff in between. Okay, let's move on to the next page, page 97, and it's talking all about that. And sure enough, there's that 1 square equals 1 foot that we just identified in the page before. It says, why do you think the scale was chosen for the diagram? Well, it's such a convenient scale. It's easy to read and easy to count. So if you're drawing something that's 14 feet, all you have to do is count 14 squares, and it works very nicely. Okay, it also gives you a nice big thing. It's not too small, it's not too large. It's a pretty good size on your graph paper. So if that's the scale, 1 square is 1 foot, we can go and look at the different measurements and try and actually figure it out. So to do this, I'm actually going to switch to dual screen, and we'll be able to see both and be able to answer at the same time. Okay, you of course have both pages in your notebook that you can look at. So it says the width of one window. So let's just look at this window and count the squares. So 1 square, 2 square, 3 squares. So 3 squares represents 3 feet. Okay, so 1 square is 1 foot, so 3 squares would be 3 feet. Okay, so 3 squares is 3 feet, and we indicate feet by having 1 tick. Now it says convert the feet to inches, so we might need a little bit of help here, so I'll just move this into the middle. So 1 square is 1 foot, and a foot is 12 inches, so 3 times 12 would get us 36 inches. So 3 times 12 is 36 inches. So this window here is 36 inches. And in fact, this one is also 1, 2, 3 squares, so that would also be 36 inches. Let's find the width of the door. Okay, so the door here you can see is 1, 2 and a half. So it looks like 2 and a half squares. Okay, so 2 and a half squares, or 2.5 squares, would then, of course, in our scale measurement, let's just get that back up here, is 2.5 feet. Okay, you could say 2 feet, and half of a foot is 6 inches, so you could also say it's 2 feet 6 inches. But we're going to convert that into inches anyways, so you could go 2.5 times 12 and see that it is 30 inches. Or you can say this, 2 times 12 plus the 6 extra inches left over is 30. Okay, half of 12 is 6, and so we can get 30 inches. And that's actually pretty standard for a door, is being 30 inches. Some are 36 inches, some are 32 inches. This is that. But the key in this one is noticing that you can go halfway in this in your scale drawing, and so that's going to be handy when we go off and place some furniture in here. Okay, and the last is the width of the closet door. This is much easier. It's only 2 squares, so 2 squares is 2 feet, and 2 times 12 is 24 inches. Okay, so that gets us halfway down page 97. And the next questions, I'm actually going to skip these. It's talking about shelving and so forth. So I'm not really interested in the perimeter of the room. We could save for another day. What I'm interested in is placing things in there. So we're going to skip number 3 and 4 and go over to page 98. Okay. And so we'll flip our page and look at number 5. And it says Kayla wants to rearrange her bedroom furniture. So it says draw and label and cut out templates of 6 pieces of furniture listed below. Now, we don't actually have to do that. You can see here it says use 1/4 inch grid paper because, as I mentioned, the scale on there is the same as most graph paper. But what we're going to do is just draw it right on the scale drawing. Okay, so I'm going to help you with this, and you can draw it wherever you'd like, but we need to make some decisions. So we have to place her bed, a desk, a bookcase, a dresser, and some nightstands. So the nightstands, there's 2 of those, and it goes on either side. You see they're 2 feet, and then your bed is in there, so that's 6 feet. So if we have 6 plus 2 is 8, plus 2 more is 10 feet. So we have to find 10 feet to place the bed. So I don't know. Some people like to have their bed underneath a window. However, if it does rain, that's not really a good spot for it. And other people suggest you shouldn't have your bed under a window, but that's up to you. Sometimes it's inevitable. So I don't think I'm going to put it around here. 10 feet, there's not enough room along the door with all the doors here. So I think we have either here or here. And I think I'm going to put it along this. This gives me a big blank piece of space right here. And that would be lots of room for us to put our bed. So I need to draw 6 feet by 3 feet. So that's going to be 6 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3 wide. Okay, so you could actually trace it out with a ruler and a pencil. I'm going to use my graphic here, and I think I'm going to place it right about here. I'm going to go, so I'll go like this. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 3 wide, and get that picture. Okay, now, just because I don't plan on doing this for every single one, I've actually pre-made some of these. So there is going to be our bed, but you should see that it's about exactly the same as that. Okay, so I'm going to just erase this bed here and use this pre-made one that I have and place it, I don't know, somewhere in the middle of this wall. Let's say maybe right about, let's put it right there. Okay. I don't want to put it too close to the window, and I can't put it right on the corner because I'm going to put one of these nightstands on either side. Now, you could just put it in the corner and then put a nightstand here and put 2 of them that way, or you could put a nightstand someplace else in the room. This is totally up to you, but I think I'm just going to put it right about there and then put some nightstands on either side. So I've got that, and the nightstands are 2 by 1, so they're going to be little 2 wide and 1 deep. So I've got them made up right here, NS for nightstands, or night tables, I guess. It should have been NT, but that's okay. So I'm going to put one of them there and one of them there. Okay, and so we've got our nightstands on either side of our bed. All right, so we've got the bed and the nightstand. So what is another one that's going to be interesting? Well, we've got our dresser, and we've got a desk and a bookcase. So it looks like the next biggest thing is the desk. So it's 4.5 feet by 2 feet. So I'm going to have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1/2. So if I was drawing this, okay, I would want to go 1, 2, 3, 4.5, and then it goes up 2. So I've just decided to put it over here. I could put it over here. This would be a good spot too for it. So there's 2 wide and 4.5. It actually would fit nicely in that corner as well. And you might like having that next to the window. I like having it next to a window here. So those are 2 places where we could put our desk. So I've got the desk right here. Um, I think it's just a personal preference thing, but I'm noticing that there's a bookcase as well. And normally, if you're working at a desk, you might have a spot for your binders and your books. And I would say that the bookcase would want to go near the desk. And if we put it over here, I don't think it's going to really fit there. So I think I'm not going to put it in this spot, and instead I'm going to put it over here. So I can actually just place the desk right on that spot. Okay, and it'd be nice to be by the window, so when you're working, you can open the window, get some sunshine going in here, have a chair there. So I like that. Might also turn it the other way and have it right underneath the window, but maybe if you have a computer on there or something, it might be covering the window. So I like having it over here, and it'll give me some room to put my bookcase. And the bookcase is 3 by 12 inches. So remember that 12 inches is 1 foot. So this is just a fancy way of saying 3 by 1. So this is going to be a 3 by 1. So I think I've got a little bookcase sitting right here, and I'm going to put it right next to the desk. So there's 3 by 1, and I got my desk here. There. Okay, and I've left a little space there, but you could put it right up against it. But I wanted to show that 1, 2, 3 units and 1 inch or 1 foot deep. Okay, and so that means I've got everything except the dresser. So now the dresser is 3 by 18. So 18 inches. So that one's we got to check. So if there's 12 inches in a foot, so I'm going to go, or we did this in the warm up. So 18 divided by 12 is 1.5. Oh, right. I think that sounded familiar. 1.5. So that's 1 foot and half a foot. Well, if that's 12 inches, half a foot is 6 inches, and that would make 18. Let's check that. 12 plus 6 is 18. So this is 1.5 inches wide and 3 feet long. So we can put this in a couple of places. You might want to put it over here, so let's try that. So this is 3 feet by 18 inches. So that's 1.5. So like 1.5 and 3 wide. So you could put it right here, but I noticed that it's kind of blocking the window a little bit, and depending on how big the wardrobe is, it might not be good right there. So maybe you could move it in here and have it by the closet door and have all your clothes in this part. So that might be a great spot for it. Um, or you might, I don't think it's gonna be too crowded if I put it along here. So another spot you could do is put it there. So I've got my dresser. I could squeeze it in here. I don't think I want to put it under the window. I do have that spot there, or if I can twist it around, there we go, twist it around and put it here. I could maybe put it here as well, or here. So let's just put it over here. So it's near your bed too, so that's a nice spot. Let's put it right here. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of it over here. So there's no right or wrong answers for where you're going to put this. This is just a possibility. You might want to put the bed coming out here and your dresser over there, or the desk over there, all sorts of different options. But we do know that it's all drawn to scale. I kind of like this, so you have a nice open area here. Maybe you can get a chair and sit by the window, a little reading spot or something like that. Okay, so this is just one possible drawing, but it does get us thinking about how it all lays out in a room. Okay, and that's going to be important because you're going to be recreating a drawing just like this for your culminating activity. Okay, so let's make sure we're all comfortable with that. So that's the drawing that I've drawn, and we'll finish off then some other questions about this. So on the bottom of page 98, it says, well, arranged it, so we've already arranged it. and then give a reason for locating. Well, you heard all the reasons that we were talking about when we were doing this. Um, one reason I put the bed there is it was a big empty space along that wall. Okay, so that's an idea, or perhaps over here. I chose not to put it by the windows. The desk, I decided to put that one near the window. I thought it'd be nice to be sitting near a window. Not enough room for it to go over here, so I put it over in this corner. The bookcase, well, I decided to put it next to the desk because to me that makes sense having those two. You wouldn't want to have your bookcase over here and you have to get up and get everything off your bookcase from your desk. The dresser, there's a big open space here, so I decided to put it there. Or, of course, we could have tucked it around the corner. And the two nightstands I put on either side of the bed. Okay, so that's just a couple of reasons for that. All right, so that's as far as we're going to go with the 4.5. We're going to stop there. We're not going to do number 8. Number 8 says do a scale diagram of the classroom. Well, of course, we can't do that right now. So instead, I'm going to tell you to stop here, and in a second, you're going to do your culminating activity. So what's your culminating activity? Well, again, number 9, we're going to skip that because it's about talking about the classroom. Number 10, it says, or this check your understanding says, well, make a scale drawing of your kitchen. Okay, using imperial measurements. So I'm going to suggest that in a moment you're going to be doing something like this. So what I've decided to do is draw a scale drawing of my bedroom. Okay, so you see my bedroom goes 12 feet and 14 feet. So very similar to the dimensions of the one that we were just playing with. And you see that I've got some of the different parts of my room. Okay, so I've got a window here, really big window here. There's my bed with two nightstands on either side. There's a dresser here. I've got a dresser here and a stand-up dresser here, and my TV's above this, and I've got a spot to watch TV. So you see how it's very similar to what we've drawn, but I've drawn this on graph paper. Okay, so this is going to be your next activity, but I'm just giving you a sneak peek in this video of what you're going to be doing. And you see that my scale is 1 square equals 1 inch because 1 square on this is a 1/4 inch. Okay, so your calming activity is to create something like this. Now I've chosen my bedroom just because it matches kind of what we were doing, and you could choose to do that, or you could choose the kitchen or another room in your house. The reason the bedroom works nicely is because usually you just have rectangular shapes in there. When you're talking about maybe like a living room or a family room or something like that, often there's round tables and things like that, which is a little bit harder to draw. Okay, so but you can choose whatever you want, and you'll be doing something like this and then taking a picture and scanning it and sending it to me. Okay, so all of this is what's coming up next, but I thought it makes sense to talk about it here because we just finished doing a drawing with this. Okay, so that's going to be your next day's activity, but to wrap up today's activity, we're going to, let's go back to a single page here. Okay, you're going to be doing your quiz on what we just did. And this is just the first 3 questions on the quiz, but you see how it's very similar to what we did right at the beginning in our warm-up. Okay, so make sure you re-watch this part before you go off and do your quiz. Remember, converting from inches to feet, you divide by 12 and see what's left over. And then going from feet and inches into inches, 6 times 12. Remember that 6 times 12 plus 1. Let's just look at all the answers. 6 times 12 plus 1. Okay, and you'll see on our quiz similar questions to that. Okay, so there's this is 6'7", so a really tall person, and figure out how many inches. And here's one where you're going from inches into feet and inches. Okay, so your job right now is to go ahead and finish the quiz. Once you're finished the quiz, you can move on to the next assignment, and the next assignment is your last assignment of the course for this year. Section 4, culminating activity, is to make a scale drawing of a room in your house. Okay, so best of luck on your quiz and on your culminating activity.